My name is Angel Wood, and this is Crime of the Truest Kind. Hey everybody, this is part 2. The second segment from the live show, recorded October 10th at Off Cabot in Beverly, Massachusetts. It's a live show. There won't be anything perfect about it. But it is pretty incredible, the information that you share when you show up at these shows. If you haven't listened to episode 74, the live show presentation portion, do that. Go back and listen. And this is the bonus Q&A. North Shore crime cases. Recorded live at Off Cabot, Beverly, Massachusetts. Thanks for listening.
I would ask that if you have questions, I'm happy to talk about whatever you want. I would love to get it on mic because we are recording. You can identify yourself if you want. You don't have to. That's not a requirement. But I would like to get it on mic if you have a question. And Stacy is here with a... Is this it, Stace? Thanks, Chris. Chris, everybody. My set designer. You win a prize tonight because you have been very active.
I'm not crazy about a mic, but the Kristen Crowley case, I think I remember that. Wasn't her apartment behind like Oriental Jade and Peabody?
I think it was.
I do remember that. Yeah, and I just started listening to your podcast, and I do love it. I love it, and I really do. And I'm really glad. I hope you will come back.
I will. I'd love to come back.
Yeah.
I find these to be, despite the subject matter, I do feel like I don't know, I just feel like we kind of have a moment where we're talking about stuff that, these people shouldn't be forgotten. Though some of these people are gone for a long, 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 long time. And when I do research for folks, and some people, there's like no digital existence or footprint for these people. And it really bothers me that somebody lived and loved and they don't exist anymore. No.
My name's Kelly, by the way, and I am actually from Beverly, but Maura Murray is a case that I'm hoping will be solved before I die. I really do.
Have you heard the podcast that her sister Julie did?
I've been listening to that one as well. Yes, I have been. I do.
Yeah, it's quite well done. And, the good news is, as a result of that podcast coming out, they have gotten new leads on the case.
Oh, and it's Fred, I love Fred.
He's amazing. He's great.
Yeah.
We often make, because I'm a Massachusetts, I'm proud to be a New Englander, I'm proud to be from Massachusetts. We joke with each other about being massholes, because he has an extraordinary Boston accent.
He's got his accent, yeah.
He's a great accent. Yeah.
Thank you so much for
coming. Thank you for the question.
I actually just finished listening on my way home from work tonight to that second episode of the young lady in Somerville.
Charlene.
It just blew my mind. I can't wrap my head around any of what happened there. That was crazy. But I have a question. I lived in Lawrence for several years, and probably, a year or two into me living there, there was a young man, actually a boy, who was found on the Merrimack River beheaded. He was 16 years old, and it was obviously a huge, it's Lawrence, so, shit happens there, but not beheadings typically.
Yeah.
And a few weeks into it, they arrested another young man, 15, and charged him with the crime. And I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that a 15-year-old boy could do that to another person. Clearly, some of the stories you've told, that is a possibility. But I've heard a lot of other... I overheard some stories at a bar in Methuen one night about what might potentially have happened, as the years went on. But I've never really heard what happened after this kid was arrested. I don't know really what the result was, what actually happened. but there was so much more potentially to this than this other teenager. I had heard that he had potentially lured this kid into the woods for the people that actually did kill him.
I'm not entirely sure what the status is of that case.
Yeah.
Is that Lee Manuel?
Could be. Yeah. How do you find out about that sort of stuff?
Sometimes we don't, actually.
Yeah.
Sometimes it gets lost. Sometimes, for example, the Nayeli Nieves story that I talked about from last year, there is 0 updates about her case from last year. I have family members asking me if I know anything.
Wow.
And I said, I will try to find out the best I can, but I do not have any information. And that's another conversation where, much like Charlene Rosemond's case, families don't often get information. They don't always know that they're able to ask questions. They don't always know that advocates are available to help them.
Yeah, the way they were treated too by the police department is
Everett
horrible.
Police Department would not even talk to them. They're like, she's 23, she's an adult.
Yeah.
Maybe she wanted to leave.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, I know that parking lot. How somebody was in a car dead for 6 days.
I can't imagine it. I couldn't even imagine. I mean, I live in a pretty small town now, and I couldn't imagine that happening in my small town. Like cops doing, just doing their regular drive-by, their drive-arounds. I don't know what they're called.
Yeah. Oh, they hide behind trees, and I mean, there's probably 3 parking enforcement officials for every citizen of Somerville. They are everywhere, seriously. And and that apartment building, like that faces that parking lot.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And they found out, I mean, her sister Rose didn't know this, but she learned that they knew this area, that Charlene and some of her friends were familiar with that area. Sometimes they'd meet up there.
Yeah.
And the people, the Rosemond family believe that they know exactly who's. Rose was very careful not to name people, and I respectfully just let her. I didn't press her on things because it's not my job to be like, who is it? Who is it? Name them. I wouldn't release it on the podcast anyway.
Yeah.
If they were not arrested and actual suspects. But she was very careful about any of that.
But she was very sure she knew.
But
too.
they know who did it. And someone was charged with perjury in relationship to the case. It's confounding to me that someone was arrested for perjury in an investigation into her murder, but nothing came from it after that.
And for supplying an alibi, a false alibi for somebody, why did they not go for that? It's crazy.
So where are the other people?
Yeah.
If you know he was lying about them, how come you haven't gone after the other people? And that's the problem that the family has. They're like, we don't understand. It's been 15 years. Why is her murder not solved?
Yeah, that's nuts. That's crazy. It's like that girl from Saugus, too. That's just so many people that know what happened. But nothing.
Susan what's her last name? Taraskiewicz. Yeah. Everybody knows that story. Did you? Oh my gosh. Can we? Thank you, Stacy. Can you just say that again?
My dad's the one that found Susan Taraskiewicz's body.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I wasn't born, but
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
That's traumatic. I mean, you don't forget that. What? Your husband found 2 dead bodies? Oh my gosh, found someone in a dumpster. Oh, very sorry. He's not related to the case. He just found her and just had to report it.
Look, I'll talk for you. He's a mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't born. I think the car was dropped off at the auto body shop, and my dad opened the trunk.
Because he thought it was the car that he was supposed to be working on, and looking, so he ended up opening the trunk.
So the car that she was found in was brought there, like a tow truck found it?
I think it,
No, a car was being dropped off. He thought that was one of the vehicles being dropped off.
Oh, I see.
But it was keys. And he ended up, when he was going through the vehicle, he opened the trunk and
Oh my gosh.
And actually, Colleen Ritzer was her teacher.
Oh, see, there are too many connections. There are too many. See how it affects us.
yeah.
See how we all unfortunately have a connection. I wish that was never. Talk about Colleen for a minute, because she was extraordinary.
Now I'll cry, but she really was. She passed my junior year of high school, but I had her sophomore year, and I actually was like a wicked math geek, and she was just truly. It's so funny because I'm 28 and I think she was only 24, and I'm like, it's bananas that I thought in high school she was so much older, but she was like truly so kind, so sweet. One of my favorite teachers. Yeah, she was a good human.
She loved math, and I
She
don't know
did.
anybody who loves math. Maybe 2 people.
Yeah.
You love math? All right. I was really bad at it.
I actually was at school that day and witnessed her dad asking like
Where
where
she
she
was.
was. So we had like a cheering.
Did you know the
thing.
perpetrator also?
I was a junior. He was a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember on like Twitter, everyone was like, "Oh no, Philip Chisholm's missing!" Like, and all the tweets were like, "Oh no, like, yeah."
Like they thought there were 2 crimes, right?
No, they didn't know that night, and it was just, "Oh no, this boy didn't come home from soccer practice. What's going on?" And it was all like, "Oh," when people hashtag, like, yeah, hashtag, like,
I remember that.
where
yeah.
is he? Find him. And then
Yeah.
the next morning, we found out school was canceled because.
That bathroom was blocked off. No one
So
could ever
that-
go in there again, right?
No, that bathroom actually opened up probably, like, I would say honestly, probably like a month later. I personally have never been in that bathroom, like after the fact, but it did eventually open up. But I know like a lot of people did not use it.
I would imagine that would have 2 different schools, right? Like
Yeah.
schools. 2
Bathroom,
different
like,
approaches, right?
yeah.
People would go in it for like a morbid, macabre kind of thing,
Yeah.
and then other people are like, I don't want any part of
Yeah.
that. I
Like
get
I
it.
think like I feel like people as our class graduated and the last class to have her graduated, then it was more so like, oh my God, this happened in the bathroom. But for us, it was all like, nobody's going in the bathroom.
You're crushed because you lost somebody you truly cared about, she truly cared about her students. There's
Yeah.
100%. There's no doubt in my mind that she truly
God, she
loved what
was-
she did and
I
loved
remember
her
like getting
kids.
trouble in her class because I used to like laugh all the time, and she'd be like, Tiana, I'd be like, I'm sorry.
Well, and for people who aren't aware of a lot of Colleen's story, is she wanted to help him. The
Yeah.
person that took her, the person who killed her, she wanted to help. She tried to help him.
Yeah.
And whatever happened after that, I can't speak to what happened inside that boy's
No.
head. But she truly was there to help him. And
Yeah. But she was a good person. I'm glad to have known her and had her as a teacher.
well, thank you for that. I relish the opportunities to talk to people who actually knew these people, because they're made into characters. But we need to make sure people remember that Colleen was a woman. She was a woman. She was a math geek and damn proud of it, and wanted other people, particularly her students, to have the same enthusiasm about it that she had.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. Thank you. What a really interesting connection you 2 have. Wow.
Hi, my name is Connie, and I live in Swampscott, and I'm very familiar with Henry Bedard Jr. He was a 15-year-old boy that was murdered next to the railroad tracks in 1974. And the only reason I'm so familiar with it was because I graduated from high school in 1974. He was in high school in the next town over. I was in Marblehead, he was in Swampscott. And we had a really playful town-to-town football rivalry, which still goes on. He was beaten to death with a baseball bat. He was 15 years old. And there are a group of people in Swampscott that swear to God they know who did it, but they are so afraid to speak up. And one by one, these people are dying. They're getting way up there in age now, and there's only one or two people left from a particular family says they know who did it. His girlfriend in high school did a Facebook page. She has never been the same, and she, every year on the anniversary of his death or his birthday, would put something up to remind people what happened. The Swampscott police, the Lynn police, the Marblehead police, the state police in Massachusetts all lied. There was a baseball bat with a particular carving that someone did by hand on the tip of the baseball bat. It would almost be like what they call tagging today, like a gang. That's how these people know whose baseball bat that was. It was snowing that night. He left it behind. He was just walking home with Christmas presents for his family. His girlfriend says she now knows who did it, and she has had, I don't know what you call it anymore. They used to call it a nervous breakdown. I think she's taken it down because she can't get anywhere. No one will listen to her. She can't get the families to speak. They're afraid for their lives.
So this person is still actively in the area?
They are actively in the area. They believe they were also high school students, but a little older. And they also think that somebody kind of hinted around that one of the perpetrators passed away already.
Wow. So more than one person involved in this murder.
That's what these people most of this family has moved. They're so afraid. I don't know anything about who these people are that did it or what their family connection is, yet everyone's so afraid of them. Of course, you think of the mob or something like that. So I'm really glad to see that you have that up there because this is a crime that can be solved. And people are still trying, and the police gave up decades ago.
Unfortunately, your story is so similar to so many other stories in that cases are languishing unsolved, and family members and people associated, people who have knowledge of the case, often know who the perpetrators are, but for whatever reason, they don't do anything, they don't move past knowing or having a little bit. That's why we need to keep shaking the tree. We need to keep shaking the tree so people don't forget that these people were alive and lived and loved and had dreams. But secondly, we need to try to get people to talk. Because what happens is, we always talk about, well, there'll be a deathbed confession. Not necessarily, but relationships change, right? People who were keeping somebody's secret, relationships change, marriages break up, people get upset with one another, whatever scenario that looks like. But things shift, and we need to get people. So the Charlene Roseman case that we were talking about in Somerville, somebody posted on a message board, I know who is involved. Should I snitch or should I mind my own business? Nothing has come of that sense. But people are sitting on information for whatever reason. They're not talking. So many years have gone by since this crime. By now, we need to get those people to talk about it. To connect those dots, there could be things that authorities already know. a little bit of information could add to that, could connect the dots, make a connection, however you want to term it. But I don't think any information is not a big deal. I think any information is something.
And also, I see you have the Beryl Atherton case in Marblehead.
Yeah.
Did you read the book?
I did not.
I just finished the book.
What did you think?
Unbelievably fascinating.
Wow.
They didn't come to any conclusions,
Mm-hmm.
but it's got a little bit of tongue-in-cheek to it also.
Mhm.
It was either 3 men were seen going into her house that day.
Oh my gosh.
Remember, I guess, before I was born, I think, they used to deliver ice,
Mhm.
and the milkman delivered milk. So there was an ice man, a milkman, and a fish man. And the fish man, I think it was, that was bringing fish over.
This was like early Uber Eats, folks.
He found her body, supposedly,
Oh my gosh.
and called the police. But those are the 3 suspects: fish, ice, and milk. So, but get the book if you can.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. I forget the man's name who wrote it, but he's an old Marbleheader. He remembers all of it. It's called, I don't know. I'll look, yeah,
We'll find
I
it.
try to even think of his name, but thank you.
Thank you for that information. Those are things that I don't know. So if anything we can take away from tonight is we all got to hang out, we all got to meet, we got to talk, I got to cry, I got to drink wine, you guys had, I hope, a good time, and I learned a little bit more information about that case that I had not known. Oh, is there still a Facebook page about his case?
Henry?
Yeah. We'll try to find it.
I'm not sure that she monitors it anymore.
Yeah.
Because it has become so painful.
Yeah.
She never got over it.
It's still with her. She just doesn't really know how she wants to process it all these years later.
One heavy
Oh, hi.
and one light. Your coverage on the Station Nightclub. I was in college then in a lot of very sketchy buildings, seeing concerts, and took my kids to their first show this summer and realized the first thing that I do, and my friends now, is we look and not just one. You know what I mean? And I was at Lana Del Rey with my daughter, and I'm like, okay, look over there, look over there. If they go high, you go low.
That's
so,
right.
Unfortunately, it changed the culture surrounding attending events for so many of us in a good way.
Yeah, it changed.
It really did.
I mean, look, Chris introduced us and said, here's how you get out. That's because of the station fire.
And it's terrible when they still do pyrotechnics, even at Fenway Park. But either way.
You're right.
On a lighter note, I'm sure many of us listen to a lot of podcasts surrounding this sort of genre. It is so lovely to hear you say people's names. Puglisi, Noons, all these Massachusetts names and words. You know, you hear other podcasters, and they really try, but it's really hard to say Worcester.
Oh, they can't, they don't get it.
And you know, they always apologize. Oh, Worcester, you know, or it's really nice to hear it and be like, okay, great. We don't have to explain to you what it is you're actually trying to say.
They try hard, and I appreciate it because, much like all of you in this room, I listen to so many podcasts, and I do chuckle. I mean, because that's what being a New Englander is. By the way, we're in on the joke. We know. I mean, that's why we get called all kinds of things by, you know, the outsiders, because we're like, get the fuck out of the way. It's a rotary. Come on, just go. You know, all of the things. We are who we are. But like, you know, what you said is like we can pronounce that. We can say Gloucester. We can say Haverhill. Yeah. Danvers. It's Danvers forever for me. Even though there is an R in it, it's Danvers forever. No, but thank you for that, because I love being a New Englander. I love being a masshole. This is I have a Massachusetts necklace, for God's sake. I love us. You know? I love us.
Do you think you'll ever do a podcast on the Dr. Richard Sharpe case?
Oh, that's a good one. Wenham. Do you live in Wenham? Do you know the area?
I live in Gloucester.
He was her doctor.
He was my doctor.
Oh my God, tell me about that. Richard Sharpe was a dermatologist based out of Wenham, I think, but he had offices in other places, right?
Gloucester office. I don't know where else, but I saw him in the Gloucester office.
And
Freaking weirdo.
what kind of was he a good doctor?
I think he really knew his stuff, but he was a weirdo, and everyone said he was a weirdo.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
every patient. But
So people who may not be aware of the Richard Sharpe case, Dr. Richard Sharpe, he was a dermatologist. I think he was really one of the first doctors that started doing like laser treatments and things. And he was going through a divorce, and correct me at any point if I'm wrong, he went to his soon-to-be ex-wife's house. She opened the door and he shot her, killed her. And then what we now know as transgender, I believe he was called like a cross-dresser or something like that. So he was going through transitions, and there was a divorce and a pending divorce and children and all sorts of traumatic things going on. And he decided that they were going to murder their wife to take care of the problem, right? Didn't really work.
Painted the picture of him in People magazine and
Yeah.
all around. Oh, well, that's because he was a cross-dresser, and we knew he wasn't really right. And this was like the late 90s, while to
Yeah.
a lot of us small-town people, that was may have been shocking. That really masked the whole story of like many years of how he had mistreated his wife, and then how he had shot her point blank, at their home.
Again, another case of what I've been saying all night. Somebody had decided for her what was going to happen. I don't accept that, but it is the reality.
But the story goes on, and he runs away to New Hampshire, and they find him in a hotel room, and he goes through trial and is convicted, and then he commits suicide in prison. So it's a really interesting story.
So he, excuse my language, he pussied out.
Yeah, yeah.
He wimped out. He couldn't even, he put so many other people through so much pain, but he couldn't handle it himself.
It was said that he stuck a fork in his wife's forehead in the earlier days.
Oh,
He
what a
abused her
monster.
for a long time before this happened.
And she finally took the steps.
He was a millionaire. That's probably why, because he thought she was going to take all his money for the divorce.
And were you a patient of his leading up to this?
Yes.
Yeah. So you didn't really know any better. You didn't know what was going on. You had no idea.
Oh, no.
Everybody knew he was not right.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was one of the doctors you could go to, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'll cut that hole off." And instead of like, he just chopped everything off everybody, which was great in Boston to spend all our time at the beach.
And come back to me.
Yeah, on the North Shore, we know what it's like to say. My mother was from, she's still alive. My mother was from Salem, and she talks about, oh yeah, we went to the Willows and we like put baby oil all over us. And I was like, which I did when I was a teenager. But I got smart. SPF every single day, no matter what. We slathered ourselves in baby oil too. We do need good dermatologists. Well, he's out. I know. If you would like me to, sure. Sure, I think it's on my I have a spreadsheet that has probably hundreds of cases of varying knowledge. Some are no one's ever heard of, and there's not a lot of information, versus ones that are covered a lot. When I started doing the podcast, I started with cases that really resonated with me, like Kimberly Cates in Montford in New Hampshire. And Whitey Bulger was because I read a great book that friends of mine wrote. David Wedge is one of my friends, and Casey Sherman, they wrote that book about hunting Whitey. There's a case that I don't know anybody, I covered very early on, that I don't know if anybody's ever heard. It's about two teenage girls in Salem, New Hampshire. Leanne Milius and Kim Farah, they were murdered and left in Hedgehog Pond by Rockingham Mall. I don't know that anybody ever covered their case. And that was really impactful for me, because I did an episode about that case, and I was a little snarky in it, and I'm really proud of the work that I've done, but there's definitely things that I've learned along the way. But one of the girls' parents emailed me after they heard it, and it was really incredible to hear. They're like, Thank you for what you said about our girls. It was amazing. All right. What about you? Stacy's a true crimer too. Okay. Do you mind being on the mic so I can pick you up?
So I'm a true crime, love it.
Mhm.
I watch 2020s, Dateline.
Me too.
Netflix, all of it. I don't listen to podcasts. I'm going to start with yours.
Okay.
But it sounds like your cases sometimes are solved, which is
Mhm.
great. You bring the story out, you tell of their story, of the victim, like, sorry about your sister, I think it's you, very sorry about that. But your unsolved case, do your podcasts ever bring anything to justice? Like, anything come of that?
Well, people reach out to me and say some really strange things sometimes. Solving a case? No.
But help? Like,
Putting new attention
some
on
of
the
these
case?
Lynn cases, like
Yes.
Jesus de la Cruz,
Mhm.
these girls know
Yeah.
I'm dying to
Yeah.
bring
Yeah.
that one to light.
Yep.
There's a lot of rumors that go around Lynn of what happened.
What have you heard?
That he was sold,
Mhm.
that he, all those things. I think he was kidnapped.
Mhm.
So I would love to see more light on that, to
Mhm.
bring more facts and emotion and
Right.
rumors to it.
Right.
So I was wondering if your podcast, besides solved cases, bring any light.
Yeah, because we need to continue to talk about it. We need to continue to talk about it and put it in the public forum, so to speak. And if more people like myself and people who do what I do continue to talk about it, I really want them to get it right or do the best they can to use the facts. That's the most important thing, because there's always conjecture and speculation, and that hurts a case. There were a lot of cases that are really famous. Somebody pointed out I have to say Maura Murray because Julie's like, her name isn't Maura, it's Mara. I'm like, what's the difference? Okay, Maura. I know Julie, and she's a very good person, and she's a very good person. And in Mara's case, she was the OG true crime case. And when I say that, I mean she was one of the cases that was happening as social media was really blooming and taking off. And it changed the way her family could look for her, right? So she went missing. They have really no information. And that the advent of like Facebook and social media, it made things so much easier. Imagine losing someone. Your loved one goes missing. Your sister goes missing. And pre-internet, you had to do, we still do flyers, but you had to do everything like old school. DIY, you had to print flyers, you had to knock on doors, you had to go and ask questions, which people still do. But social media helps spread the word on a much larger scale. We talk about with missing people, right? A child goes missing. I don't care if that kid is called a runaway. I don't care if that person has a drug problem. They're somebody's kid, and they need attention. I don't care if that person has warrants. We'll deal with the warrants later. They're missing. Find them. Because if there's foul play, we need to stop whomever that person is that's hurting somebody else. Because people don't stop at one, right? Generally speaking, everything that we've learned about true crime, and I say it, I don't want to be a sanctimonious asshole. I watched the Menendez brothers thing. I watched Monster by Ryan Murphy, who is a little bit exploitative, and the families of those people will tell you, but I watched that shit. It helps spread the word. A kid is missing. We need to find him. I don't care if they ran away. Why do they run away? They're just being a kid and they were shit? Okay, possibly, but they might be in danger. So social media has really helped in that regard. It's been an extraordinary help, particularly in a case like Maura's, it's 20 years old.
You said that they have some leads now?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
If you're on TikTok, Julie has, or go to their website, missingmauramurray.org. Julie has a TikTok where she'll answer questions. She gets many questions where she'll say, the season that Julie did, it's called Media Pressure. The premier season. There will be subsequent seasons, but it'll be different families talking about their missing loved one. I know there's a Molly Bish one in the works. For those of you who are aware, Molly Bish is a teenage girl who went missing in Warren, like sort of like the out central Mass area. I believe her sister's been working on a podcast about Molly, about her disappearance. But Julie will say, I get a lot of questions, and somebody said, after media pressure came out, after the first season came out, have you gotten any information? And she's like, yeah, we've gotten a lot of tips. The nature of this stuff is you have to be careful because some people want to inject themselves into the case. We know that happens. We know that people want to put themselves in it for whatever, who knows why. They're unstable. They want to say, we've seen it in all kinds of cases. John Benet Ramsey is a great example of that. It's a horrible story. It's unsolved. There seems to be a great deal of evidence surrounding her case, yet here we are all these years later, unsolved. But cuckoo birds say, I did it. They have to shake all that out, and they come to realize that, well, you didn't, but they have to be very careful. And you know what? The Murrays, they've been at this a long time. They know, they can identify when something's, a bananas thing. For the most part, they're very smart, and they're very engaged. The family's very engaged in this. 20 years later, I think there's a lot of families who may say, I don't know, I'm just tired. I don't know, I don't want to keep fighting this fight. The Murrays will never stop fighting that fight. They want to know. They believe it's foul play. It's very bizarre, the situation by itself, that her family is as confounded as the public is. They don't know why. Thank you. Bye. It's okay. No, it's okay. Thank you. The family's confounded. They don't know what was going on. They don't know why they don't know her actions, that what they've discovered. They don't know why she drove to New Hampshire. They have they have ideas, and there's information they know that the public doesn't know. But like most of us, we have no idea why she was driving to New Hampshire that day, why she told her professors that there was a death in the family, that there wasn't. There wasn't a death in the family. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's the podcast about that Julie did, and she did an amazing job. Somebody who's not a podcaster, she doesn't do any of that stuff, but it meant a lot to her to do it. She did the podcast, and there will be more as a result of the success that Julie had with her sister's case, and other families will get to tell their story, because let's talk about that. Everybody, I talk about how we've borrowed these stories, and we should take very good care of them. Julie got to tell her sister's story that everybody else has been telling for 20 years. That was a very powerful moment for her. I'm going to tell my sister's story. I'm going to do it. Because people have stolen that story. There are books written. There are people in this true crime space that have capitalized on their grief.
What do you think of...
We don't say that name because of all the reasons. Yeah. It's tough, but that family are soldiers. And they've had a lot of loss, the Murrays. They lost, Maura disappeared. Their mom passed away. Their sister passed away. And they are a pretty strong unit that remains. There's Julie, there's her dad, Fred. There's their brother, Curtis, who's great, really great guy. And he involves himself. He's come out to, we did state house events that he's been at. And yeah, they're really, really, really focused on, I believe, like a lot of these other families feel like this is solvable. We just have to shake that information out of wherever it is that it's solvable. People talk. That's the thing. People talk. So maybe to address your question, talking about these things will eventually, we hope to the gods, talking about these things will hopefully get that information, whether it's here, and we can pull all of these together and get that information that's going to tie some of these things that can lead to what happened. I don't look at myself as, I'm an investigator. I would never first knock on someone's door and be like, I do a podcast. Tell me about the worst thing that happened to you. I would never do that because I would expect someone to slam the door in my face. But I do feel like if we talk about it in a respectful way, if there's ever interaction with the family, that they recognize, I just want to try to help figure out if I have this platform that maybe I can talk about it, and that encourages another person, maybe like me, that has a platform to talk about it, provided it's factual and empathetic, then that's the right way to go. For those of you who listen to podcasts, there's a podcast called In Your Own Backyard about the Kristen Smart case in California. That is one of those podcasts where I say, that cracked a case. Because Kristen Smart went missing, and there was a lot of information about what happened to her, but they just couldn't nail it down. The host of that show, not a true crime detective, not even a armchair detective, not even kind of a detective. I've seen the shirts. They said, I don't know, I've got some skills. I know how to edit audio. I can work a mic. I want to help. So with the right intentions, Chris is his first name, with the right intentions, he went to California. I don't remember what his direct connection was to the case. I think he just gave a shit, which is like step one, give a shit. Started shaking the tree, and guess what? That motherfucker is in prison. It took a long time to get that guy, but the guy that was a suspect is in prison for her murder. His father got off. The father, we believe, helped cover up the murder. In Your Own Backyard. That podcaster actually helped solve her murder. That is a sick case, too. Anybody who's familiar with it? I'll tell you a little bit that I remember. It's very detailed. I remember somebody who rented a house that was owned by the family of the perpetrator, now who is in prison. They rented a house, and they heard in the morning, really early in the morning, they heard this alarm go off at the same time every day. This alarm would go off, like somebody set an alarm to wake up. And then eventually it stopped. They believe that she was buried on the property, and her watch was going off. Her alarm was set at the same time every day, but then the battery wore out. And then they did a dig on the site, and they didn't find anything. The motherfuckers moved the body. They moved her somewhere else we don't know. They were digging in the middle of the night, too. Yeah, they did digs on the property. And it sounds like, I don't know for sure because I'm not a detective, but it sounds like the perpetrator's parents helped cover up. Not just the dad, also the mom helped cover up the case. Could you imagine for a moment? I could not. I could not imagine for a moment knowing that my son was first capable of and murdered someone and then helping them cover it up. Absolutely not. No, but that makes me different than them because I would be like, no, you did this, you have to pay for your crime. And the horrible, horrible pain that her family went through all of these years, they knew it was him. They knew. They connected a lot of the dots, and they needed people to talk to connect the rest of the dots. And it held up in court, and he was convicted, and he is in prison. And he was that kind of indignant person, like, get out of here, leave me alone, I didn't do anything, you're harassing me. The families actually had like lawsuits against each other because they're like, you murdered my daughter. We know you murdered my daughter. Get out of here, you're harassing me. We know you murdered my daughter and covered it up, and we know at least your dad knows. So yeah, victory there. Clearly wasn't just him, it was other people involved too. He went for it. He had conviction. He's like, I'm gonna take my mic and talk to people who will talk to me. I'm sure there's tons of people he tried to talk to who wouldn't talk to him. A lot of people did. All right, guys. Thank you for coming. Sean? Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to add one thing to the few people that are left. There is some serious underestimation to the power of social media and sharing this word. And right to your question, my sister's case happened a long time ago. Even the local news channels didn't have any footage from court, from the crime scene, anything like that. They had to dig it all back up from paper newspapers. But thanks to Facebook, Twitter, and Angel, the shares that get out there, whether you realize it or not, put pressure on people to do the right thing down the road. This year we went through the parole hearing. Angel helped really put some legs back into the story because it had gone dormant for a long time. We hadn't had to worry about it. It created a huge media presence, not just social media, but even the news channels. And she can attest that day at the court, at the parole hearing, all the major networks were there.
Mm-hmm.
They were all vying for time just to get the one quote they needed to get. But the people you don't realize are feeling that pressure are parole board, right? I know a couple of them personally. I cannot talk to them because that would just be a mess.
Yeah.
But they watch the news, they have social media, they read the newspapers, so that pressure gets applied. So you guys just following this information and any other podcasts or social media groups that you follow, share all that information, especially the missing children that Angel's doing. Just share it. Honor the victims, keep their names in everybody's mind. Hopefully we'll get some good out of it.
Amen. Thank you, Sean.
Chris
And-
from Off Cabot would like to say something.
No, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you, Angel, because it's just the fact that you do this from a perspective of like a victim advocate. I think it is an amazing thing to keep these stories alive. And all of you are very interested. Like I'm sitting here thinking how amazing this is. So thank you for being here. Thank you all for coming, and I hope we have you again.
Thank you.
Yeah, we hope to have you back.
I'd
So
love to
thank
come
you.
back, and I'd love to, if there's any stories, if there are any cases you want me to look at that maybe I'm not, I don't know. There are a lot of things I don't know, and I'm happy to say there are cases that I didn't know about, including Marcia's case at the top. Just shoot me an email, and if I have questions, I'll ask you, and if you know people who have information, I'll reach out to them. I'm happy, whatever, if you think of something tomorrow, if you think of something about the Sharpe case, or if there's another case that comes up, or maybe a follow-up to something I've already done, let me know. I'm happy to. Thank you so much.
Thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your amazing questions and comments and feedback. And thank you to the team at Off Cabot for taking really good care of us. And thank you, Chris, for set design. My name is Angel Wood. This is Crime of the Truest Kind. Massachusetts and New England crime stories, regional history, advocacy-focused, and a little snark because, well, that's who I am, and I'm not going to change. I advocate for families. I advocate for treating these stories with care. I advocate for sharing compassion with other people and for other people. More live shows are coming. Tell me where you want me to go. crimeofthetruestkind.com. Everything is there. How to support the show on Patreon. Drop a tip in the jar. Listen to the show. Share the show. Tell your friends. Share it on true crime groups. Thank you for listening. Take care of one another. And lock your goddamn doors.